So the way I see Open API is really more beyond PSD2, which is the requirement. Of course, that's the bare minimum requirement. But if you look at the trend over the last, I would say, 10 years post-2008, there are a lot of fintechs and there are a lot of startups and there are non-traditional banks coming into the marketplace and disrupting or creating a different competitive landscape for banks. And as a result of that, there's a trend in the marketplace which is really all about digital banking, or it's about banking as a service in the cloud. So Open API, I see really as starting with PSD2 from a payments perspective, but really enables the underlying engine that'll serve as a catalyst to have this large ecosystem of various services that could be provided by banks, non-banks, traditional banks, and fintech, and really extends and provides reach to individual banks. So I think it's a huge opportunity. In terms of what are we doing at D&H, so we have a very structured program that we're launching. Number one, first of all, we have created a strategic program where first priority, we're focusing on PSD2 to make sure that our products are compliant with PSD2. Number two, while our focus is PSD2, we're also partnering with some of our customers. And just recently, in the last couple of months, we actually did co-innovation with one of our key customers where we very quickly demonstrated that how can we expose services from a payment hub technology, for example, and quickly expose real-time payment transfer or credit transfer or payment initiation, as well as history of transactions associated with a certain customer. So those are two specific things we're looking at. On one side, we're definitely looking at from a PSD2 perspective, but we're also looking at from a more broader perspective, what does it really mean to enable collaboration beyond just payments. A couple of points. Number one, on security, I think I do agree that the customer consent is absolutely critical. But outside of that, there are technologies available today with tokenization, encryption, and authentication. So I think the security part can certainly be managed. On differentiation, I think there's huge opportunity for differentiation, because if banks are only going to be looking at PSD2 as a holy grail to implement open APIs, of course, then there's no differentiation between the different banks. But there are emerging technologies that are actually quite mature right now, like machine learning and deep learning and artificial intelligence from a software perspective. And if they are intelligently used underpinning the Open API, then you're creating differentiation, right? So if you're just going to expose, the payment transaction or the account aggregation view, that's just a bare minimum in my opinion. And I think most companies are going to be doing that. Opportunity for differentiation is going to be the underpinning on what kind of intelligence you're providing, not only providing to the third-party provider who can solicit information from you, but also leveraging from the larger ecosystem to provide value-added services to the customer. Well, so there are definitely implications from a technology perspective, right? So in banks, we have front office, middle office, and back office. We got multiple systems. So a specific example would be a payments engine that supports different payment types across different silos. A payment hub technology integrates all that stuff. And while Open API fosters integration regardless whether it's a simple hub or a single hub or it's multiple payment engine, it does exposes and creates a platform for integration. So that's a good thing. But in the journey that we are on, it's really all about speed to market. And if we have a modern platform like a payment hub, it enables the cost of ownership goes down, right? So you don't necessarily have to make changes in multiple systems even just for compliance reasons. You should be able to make changes in one location. And some of the technical challenges, I think bank, from my opinion, based on the conversation that I've had with bankers and my colleagues, it's really not to just look at modernization or digital journey or digitization of banking more in context of just open API for payments or front-end channel, because you really have to think through, because there are interconnectivity between the payments engine and let's say the deposits engine, or maybe even on the lending side. So that open API strategy needs to be extended across the organization incrementally, of course, so that we have a view of performance, right? So the performance implications and security implications. So we're providing the right level of experience to the end customer in terms of speed and agility. So while there are technical investment, also legacy products create legacy business processes, and that leads to complexity, right? So I think it's not just about open APIs and the driver's side to it. I think it's really the larger question about simplification journey that banks are going on. And simplification journey is actually executed through digitization, which most of the banks are on. And I think if we take a very broad look about how we're going to approach, how banks should approach digitization or open API, they should be looking at end-to-end. And where some areas can be leveraged, which is legacy, if it's properly decomposed, so the right level of services can be exposed. So yeah, so I think there are technical implications, but on one hand, Open API also provides a platform to extract the right services even from a legacy platform. The only difference being that if you do that, then the level of flexibility or the level of granularity that you would want to create in a service that you want to provide to a customer may not be there, right? So Payment Hub, like I said, started with is a perfect example. It could be consolidated into one location, and then from one single payment engine, you will be able to expose the relevant services.